What's up, y'all? My name is Chris. This is the Before Chris 2 channel. Originally, when I conceived the idea for this channel, well, to be honest, there's been a lot of different ideas for this channel, but my most recent idea for this channel was to really kind of talk about the art that I was consuming. So I kind of originally wanted to do like a monthly media consumption report type thing. And I still might want to do that, but I think the better idea actually came to me was what if I picked the pieces of art that I consumed within a month that I felt like actually had some meaning and connected and connection in some sort of way? Um, and so I kind of want to talk about that. And I think I really like this angle because it allows me to talk about like certain ideas that I've noticed within the art that I've consumed that that I find a connection in, and that I have maybe a personal sort of connection with. So, in doing so, um, as the title suggests, we have a lot to talk about. Watched quite a few movies in May, read two books in May, and listened to quite a bit of music. But I don't think I have any sort of specific music that I want to talk about as a connection in this video. Um, to start, one of the first films I want to talk about is Erupcja, which is the new Pete O's film starring Charlie XCX. It is a film that I watched earlier in the month. Um, Crazy that I was even able to catch it. I mean, my city barely gets any of these low budget indie movies, but happy to get it. I honestly had no expectations for it, but I really enjoyed it. It is a film about this girl played by Charlie XCX who goes to, I think it's Warsaw, Poland, with her boyfriend who is planning on proposing to her there. She finds like the ring somewhere in his luggage one day before they get there. And she basically like abandons him in Warsaw because she has a friend there. And every time these two friends link up, they basically like sabotage each other's current lives. So yeah, so the whole thing is that her and her boyfriend go to Warsaw, and first couple of days, it's cool. He's trying to figure out the best way to propose to her, but eventually she finds that friend of hers, and they just get into trouble, and they kind of just both mess up their lives royally. And she kind of just ghosts her boyfriend. Charlie XCX's character ghosts her boyfriend, and yeah, I don't know, something about it really connected with me. I think something about this character who's so deeply flawed, and you know who is trying to figure out what she wants in life, and is very unsure, but knows that she doesn't want to get married to this man just yet, at least. And then she has this friend who is seemingly in a good spot right now, but is also kind of struggling to maintain healthy relationships as well. And so when they both get together, it's just like this crazy thing. And then the reason why it's called Erupcja, which I can't remember what language it is, but it means eruption, I believe. And when their friendship, they've been friends for like 16 years, and the first time they met, a volcano erupted. In somewhere in the world, and so and every time they've met since then, a volcano has erupted. So they kind of have their friendship is kind of based in this ecological, thing that's happening as well. And so they kind of feel like, their connection is faded. It's some sort of spiritual connection that's deeper than, just some regular friendship. And there's definitely some homoerotic vibes between them, but it doesn't seem like they're romantic in that sense. It just seems like they're friends, but they also are kind of like people who, it's interesting because they do things to sabotage each other's life, where they kind of feed each other's bad behaviors, which I find interesting. But it's just that Charlie XCX's friends, and I can't remember the actress right now, and I hate that, but who plays her friend, but she kind of, by the end of the film, comes out unscathed a little bit. She kind of is able to find the error in their ways, and kind of and still come out and try to figure out what her own relationships are like, But Charlie XCX kind of just completely abandons all of that. And so, yeah, but why I'm bringing this film up is because on the same day that I watched that, I had finished the book Madonna in the Fur Coat, which was a book that was on my TBR for a really long time, and I think it took me maybe about a week to finish it, which is kind of long for how short the book is, in my opinion. But yeah, I was really excited to read it. I had no idea what it was going to be about, but I checked it out, and yeah, I just don't know if I was feeling it. And what I find really interesting about it is, so it's basically about this young 20 something who is sent to, I think it's Berlin, by his father. His father pays for him to go to Berlin to basically learn about I believe it's the candle. It's to learn a trade, and this is set. I don't remember what trade it was specifically, but he's sent to Berlin to learn a trade, and this is the 1930s, and he's kind of this very quiet boy. I won't call him a boy. He's a young man, quiet young man, kind of very shy. Doesn't really have any friends. Doesn't really have much of a personality, really. He loves to read, but other than that, he's not really. There's not really a lot of depth to him, it seems. So he's sent to Berlin, where he obviously doesn't know anybody now for sure, and he's to himself. But he meets this girl who is an artist, and they kind of form this connection. And yeah, I think the girl, who I think she reminds me a lot of many other women in literature and in movies for sure, where she's very honest, she's very upfront, she knows what she wants, a little bit emotionally unstable, it seems, but almost still kind of very self-aware of that. It's an interesting kind of dynamic, and the only best way I can describe it is like she's sort of like the Manic Pixie dream girl. She is kind of everything that this character is looking for but can't have, really, because right off the bat she's like, we're just gonna be friends, this is not gonna be some sort of romantic relationship. And he's sort of the main character, his name is Rafe, I believe, just agrees to it, and just because he's just happy to know her, so he's just like, you know what, whatever, I don't care, I just want to be around you. And which is in the beginning kind of is cool, but I do feel like this sort of trope of writing a woman in this way, to where it's like all her feelings are out on her sleeve, like she speaks in monologues almost. And Rafe, the main character, kind of doesn't really speak at all. Like we don't always get like a true understanding of like everything that he's feeling and why he moves the way he moves. And I just felt like it was sort of a cheap way of writing the female character in this book, the love interest, who is kind of just like everything, and also unattainable, and also just, I don't know. It just wasn't. It just didn't mesh well with me. And I compare her to the Charlie XCX character, because Charlie XCX is a very flawed person in Erupcja. She is, and I think her name. Let me not keep saying Charlie XCX, because that's not her name in the movie, and I don't want people to be thinking like Charlie XCX is not, is a flawed like human beings, but her name is Bethany. I'm sorry. So Bethany in Erupcja is a flawed person. Okay, she is a person who doesn't speak. She is not upfront with her feelings. She is not honest, and she is very avoidant. And the man that she is with is very loving, and is therefore probably not the right match for each other, it seems. She seems to be a little bit more adventurous. He's just not that way. A little bit more traditional, a little bit more, hey, I just want to have a chill night. She's kind of like, I just want to go out and have fun type of vibe. So it's not, they seem to have some sort of disconnect here, but they've been together for a while, so maybe they kind of have figured something out. Either way, Bethany in comparison to Maria, who was in Madonna in the fur coat, who was also a flawed individual. I just feel like and I know these are two different mediums, but my point is that these are two flawed characters who are with sort of passive men, and they're just shown to be. I feel like Bethany is written in a way that is with a lot more empathy than Maria is. Maria is just all gas, no brakes, and you kind of since the book is told from Rafe's perspective, the male perspective, it doesn't really give too much empathy to Maria and why she is the way she is. Like she tells us all these things, but it doesn't really give us the inner glimpse into her. And really, I think what bothers me most is in the way that her story ends in the book. And spoiler alert for people who have not read it, but like they split up because he goes back to I believe his father dies, and he goes back to his home country, and they promise to each other, hey, we're gonna keep in contact, blah blah blah, but they don't. Well, he tries to, but she doesn't respond, and we find out years later that she had died during childbirth, through complicated pregnancy. And through that we find, okay, that they had conceived the child, and it wasn't made clear in the book from my perspective, but they had conceived the child, and many years later he finds out that she had died and given birth to this daughter of his that he didn't know that he had. And I just hate the way that was written, because it's like, of course, this woman dies and has conceived his child, and he's going on about like, I've never found a love like her since, but he's gotten married, he's had more kids, these sort of things just don't connect for me. And I'm just like, how are you able to go on in this life and kind of think this way, that you struggle to make a connection with anybody, and then we kind of use this female protagonist as just the person that is the catalyst for your growth in this sort of way, but actually the catalyst for your non-growth, the person that stunts your growth any further, to where you can know you still don't feel love for anybody, and the only person you've ever loved is this woman. So yeah, I found that tough to sort of reckon with, and I don't really understand what the point of it all was. And so that was tough for me to kind of engage with. But I also want to talk about Obsession too, which, I think Obsession also came out in May. The drama, which came out in April, but I rewatched it again in May, which also has sort of passive. Both these films also engage with passive men. So stick with me here. Stick with me. So Obsession is about, I feel like everybody has seen this film by now, but Obsession is about a guy who finds this, comes across this thing called a one wish willow, where basically you get to make a wish and it gets granted. But he wishes that this girl that he has a crush on would love him more than anybody in the world. And he gets what he wishes for, which is, this woman who is deeply obsessed and infatuated with him. And, there's been a lot of discourse about the male character. His name is Bear. There's been a lot of discourse about Bear. About, is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? What type of guy is he? At the end of the day, I think he was definitely a guy who was a coward, and he was also very passive as well, which I think it connects to these other past things in art that I've consumed this past month. Is that in his passivity grew this more sinister and negative embodiment, and that is the real part where it's like, because it's kind of a gray area of whether it's like, is he bad, is he good? I think it's like his lack of action leads in itself is the sinister part about his character, because when he does make this wish and he does sort of start to realize that Nikki, the girl that he has a crush on, is not acting the way that she used to act, and that this one wish Willow thing is actually real, it actually worked, he still continues to, the only thing he's capable of, it seems, is to continue to engage in this sham of a relationship that he knows is a sham, but because that this girl is showing interest in him, the only thing he feels that he is capable of doing is continuing with it, despite the fact that Nikki is quite literally unwell and is making his own life harder. So it's very interesting that this character, that's why I really enjoyed this movie, because I like how Bear is written, because it is a bit ambiguous at first to, how bad he is, but I do think midway through the film he makes a decision to fully commit to the insanity of it all, and to kind of, I hate to use this word, but that's what it is, to kind of like continue with the abuse of this woman, to engage with the abuse of this woman who is clearly doing everything against her will. So yeah, kind of a very dark film, especially when you kind of think about it in that way. And yeah, it's tough. And so I'm connecting Bear in Obsession to Rafe in Madonna in the Fur Coat. Not the strongest comparison, but they're both kind of quiet, passive individuals who are not really confident enough to say what they really feel. Because, like I said, in Obsession, Bear has an opportunity to tell Nikki, hey, I have a crush on you. Can we go out sometime? Da da da. But he doesn't have the confidence to say it. Rafe as well in Madonna in the Fur Coat doesn't really have the confidence to tell her, like, listen, I don't want to just be friends with you. I want to be in a romantic bond with you. And if that's not something that you want, then maybe we gotta figure something else out. And then I think about Erupcja as well, where, honestly, this is, I hate to say it because I feel like he's probably the character that's done the most dirty out of all the films I've talked about. Yes, including Obsession, because I'm sorry, but Bear got what he wished for. But in Erupcja, the reason why the male in that film probably gets the worst of it is that he really does try to connect with Bethany, and he really does try to his best to get back in contact with her. He really does love her, and it's just that Bethany is not ready for what he is ready for. And that's the unfortunate side of it, is that he was ready. He was willing to do what needed to, he was going to follow her around all of Warsaw to get back in contact with her. But she just was not able to do that. And so I think that's the real tragedy of his character, is that even though he was a bit passive in his stance, it really was not his fault that Bethany chose to do what she did. Like that he had no control over what she was doing. So yeah. And lastly, to kind of wrap this up, well, I'm probably gonna I'm not gonna wrap this up. I'm actually gonna keep going. So like I said, I wanted to talk about a few other films that I watched in the past month that I feel like connect. The Drama, which was a rewatch, which I do feel like Robert Pattinson's character kind of falls into this line with the passive men thing. Not even kind of, he definitely does, where he's kind of just he clearly has this hang up with Zendaya's character and is not really able to speak to it in a clear and coherent way, and he only shows in his actions that he's being very much he's very much disturbed by the reveal of Zendaya's character that she thought about shooting up a school. Kind of just in before before the film even gets to that part, you know, there are lead ups to kind of showcasing his passivity, his anxieties around kind of just being a assertive person in his own life. So I think that's an interesting character trait that I'm seeing in some of these films that I've watched recently. So what I've done is I've connected Obsession, Erupcja, the drama, and a Madonna in a fur coat here. I find a connection between all these works of art here, and I just want to get y'all's thoughts as well. Do y'all see these connections? Am I losing it? I recommend people check out all of these films and read the book as well, because I think all three of these things were all four of these things were quite enjoyable. So I think it's well worth checking out. Subscribe to my channel if you like what I did here. If you want to see me do this again, let me know. I'm already working on ideas for the next video. So yeah, let me know if this is something that y'all like, because I will continue it. So yeah, thanks for watching.